400,000 years ago, under the fierceness of great geological transformations in the Aegean area, the large island of Crete emerged and began to take shape. Most probably, in the early but definitely in late Neolithic era, we trace the first signs of habitation of the island. The cave dweller Stone Age Cretan seems to have been influenced by the arrivals of settlers in the beginning of the 3rd millennium BC, when he comes out of the caves and the development of the Minoan civilization commences. This civilization is found organized around large palace centers. The sea was the Minoans' big ally, with their ships crossing it, trading and exchanging merchandise since the beginning of the 2nd millennium, and while the civilization was at the zenith of its fame. It was the sea that delivered the final blow to this great civilization after the fatal eruption of its volcano. A milestone in the history of the island, after the destruction of the Minoan centers, is the advent of the Achaeans around 1450 BC. 3.5 centuries later, the Dorians disembark at about 1000 BC and spread along the island. In the middle of the 1st century BC, the Romans will occupy it, and with the establishment of the Byzantine Empire, it will become a prefecture. Gortys is called upon to play an important role in these times as the capital city of the Roman and Byzantine prefecture of Kyrenaikai until 824, when it will be destroyed by the Saracens. In 1204, it will fall into the hands of the Venetians and will experience the longest period of servitude to the conquerors. Great fortifications will be erected along the coastlines, and the island and large cities will be endowed with elegant public and private buildings. In 1669, the Ottoman Turks will conquer it. It will be liberated in 1898 and unified with Greece in 1913. At present, this large island and its inhabitants experience a vast growth, especially in the tourism sector, enjoy their birthplace with a rare flora and fauna, work the fertile soil and get all the fun they can get out of life. They maintain traditions, songs, music and dances, follow traditional ways of living, and plays on the endless blue sea's dreams and hopes for the better future as their ancestors did. This other world, the world of the sea, of the coasts and coves, of the headlands and capes, of the rocky islands and islets, we will get to know during this voyage. The harbour of Heraklion is the largest port on Crete and one of the largest in Greece and the eastern Mediterranean. Its eastern entry makes it safer and easily accessible to the small boats. At its background, under the watchful eye of Fort Kules, nests secure the old Venetian port of the city, full of small and large fishing boats, trawl, sailing and small excursion boats. The city offers many sights for the visitor to explore, starting with the marina, the Venetian dockyard, the church of St. Titus with its special architecture, the restored Venetian loggia, the town hall mansion, St. Mark's Basilica, Morosini's fountain, the cathedral of St. Minas, the rampart of Martinengo where the tombs of Eleni and Nikos Kazantzakis are found, the archaeological museum of Heraklion with various rare exhibits, the diverse small shops that provide a taste of Cretan day-to-day life. Today, the Venetian fortifications create an impact with the renovated gates and the walls that encircle the historic city, also known as the Great Castle. At a distance of 5 kilometers from the center of the city, lies the Minoan Palace of Knossos, the center of Minoan civilization in Crete. Heraklion city is the largest city in Crete and the administrative center of the island, where the public services of the district are found. The infrastructure of the city and the general area for accommodations and better services has been developed to meet the needs and wants of its visitors. Accommodations of all kinds, hotel inns, self-catering apartments, cater for different tastes and finances. Welcome on board Philia, the strong boat of the Institute of Marine Biology and Research, which is ready to make the trip from the harbor of Heraklion heading west. We are leaving behind the safety of the harbor and we are opening out in the Pelagos. We have to cover about 1,050 kilometers of coastline. This is the length of the island's coastline excluding that of the surrounding islands. Opposite Heraklion lies Island Dia, a guard of the harbor uninhabited at present. It is the natural habitat of the Cretan wild goat. In 1976, Jacques-Yves Cousteau and his crew conducted submarine research in the southern coves of the island and discovered harbor facilities of the Minoan era, indicating that back at those times, Dia was densely populated. The three coves of the island, Agrilia, Meseos, and the smaller coves of Panagia and Kapari on the southern side welcome us pleasantly. This is where boats anchor when strong south winds prevent them from entering the harbor of Heraklion. Agrilia and Meseos coves secure a safe anchorage because the waters are smooth and the bottom of the sea is solid. Kapari Cove lends itself to large boats due to its depth. St. George's Cove is the fourth and most dangerous cove to the west. We are navigating west towards the north coast of Crete. The wide, sandy beaches of Xeropotamos and Amudara are bidding us farewell. We are sailing by Linoperamata and the technical piers for the unloading of petroleum for the oil installations here. In the cove of the large Heraklion Bay, better known as Rogdia Bay, the new small port of Pandanassa has been constructed, which is always densely occupied by all kinds of small boats. To the north, the natural cove of Paleokastro opens out. The deserted Venetian castle on the top of the southern rock towers over the bay. Setting course to the north and along the deep, long coastline, the peaceful scenery of the Bight of Panagia appears. A complex of small bays and coves in the area of Ligaria endow the coastline as far as the Bay of Agia Pelagia. Picturesque and immensely romantic area, it combines the beauty of the coast, the islets, and the foot of mountain Psiloritis in an appeasing to the eye and soul scenic view. We are crossing Cape Thias or the Apori of Agia Pelagia and sailing by the quaint cove of Aliki or Angelolako and Cape Aiosozon or Stavros. We are coming to the open bay of Fodele. Here, according to Ptolemy, lay the ancient city Pandomatrion. We are approaching the northern coast of Brethymnon district. Sailing always west and having passed the capes of Vigilia and the Apori, a small cove, Almerida, with a small port offers safety to small fishing and sailing boats. Past the Apori, sailing by the coast, we are arriving at Cove Katevati. Two small rocky islets, Perpatoumenos and Katevati, endow the cove that offers secure mooring and the pleasure of the clear sea. Cape Korakia and the rocky islet Peristeri reveal a diverse coastline with small, quiet coves and rocky islets where the stillness of the sea, solitude and peace are uniquely enjoyable. The West Cape on course is Pyrovolopetra. Behind it lies Bali Cove. We are setting a north course for the Cove of Bali. Small coves, rocks, islets, reefs and lonesome beaches whose calmness and solitude the visitor can access by a small boat. The cape emerging before us past Bali is Chondros Kavos. It constitutes the easternmost point of Cove Panamos, a secure shelter for small and large boats with comforts and refueling services. Panama is built on the ruins of the ancient city of Panama, which was the seaport of ancient Eleftheria. Our west course brings us to the Cape of Lianos Kavos, via an interesting voyage. The coast here is steep and high up as far as Kaloti, where the long sandy beach of Rethymnon starts. Hieropotamos, Skaloti, Adele, Perivolia are coasts with extensive tourist infrastructure and lovely beaches. The riverbeds and torrents which divide them are mostly dry in summer. Rethymnon is an intellectual city. Here is based the University of Crete and the Vivi Academy of the Venetian era. The origin of the name of the city and its habitation is lost in prehistoric times. The hill of Paleocastro, on which the Venetian fort of Fortezza is constructed, overlooks the city. The friendly, large port welcomes us. At the far end lies, protected from the whims of the weather, the small port artistically decorated under the imposing and well-preserved Venetian fort. Places in the city worth a visit are the fort of Fortezza with its renovated fortifications, the beautiful fountain of Rimonti in the center of the old city, the Venetian Loggia, housing the Archaeological Museum, the old, narrow streets with the mansions, the neoclassic building of the district offices, the sacred monastery of Arkadi. Departing Rethymnon, we are sailing by the rocky coast with its wild beauty, the varied succession of coves, rocks, reefs, carved by the age-long embrace of the earth with the sea. The area is called Petres by the rocky character of the area, which is displayed here magnificently. Just before coming to the beach of Almiros Bay, stretches the cove of Yerani. Navigating by Cape Korakas, the cove of Almiros opens its arms with its widespread beach. We are arriving at the safe mooring place of Georgioupoli. A beautiful land, this corner of Cretan coast, rich in nature reserves, nurtured by the three rivers which maintain the springs and the riverbeds with their flow all year round. To the south of the town, in the arms of the mountains, lies the one and only in Crete, Lake Kourna. To the west rises the Cape Drapano or Kefalas that defines the south side of the natural Bay of Souda, the safest in the Mediterranean. On the level landing, shaped by the two capes of Almirida Gulf, Drapano and Chiamos, which rise commandingly at the right of the large gulf, the ancient city of Aptera or Aptera was constructed. Past the often uneasy Cape of Drepano, and at a distance of about a mile, The calm cove of Tigania offers a small pause, calm and clear sea, inviting waters, and a quiet beach. Almerida Bay, with a white like stone ship island and the quiet deserted coves, invites us for a short or a long stay. The old Christian basilica here is impressive, while a trip to Vamos and the beautiful villages of the area have got a lot to offer to the eye, taste, and the soul of the visitor. Nearby, to the west of town Kallides, awaits the last cove before the large Souda Bay, with the added comforts, the safest anchoring in all weathers, offering the procurement for refueling and general supplies. The bay is shaped between the voluminous Cape of Melechas or Akrotiri to the north and the coast of Apokoronas and Kidonias to the south. In the vicinity, at an unknown yet spot, lay the ancient city of Tanos, which according to researchers was the ancient Hippokoronion. The mountains embracing the bay create a dominant protective shield and prevent the winds from disturbing its peace, giving to this sea place a particularly beautiful, friendly and hospitable character. At the mouth of the bay, two small islets welcome the navigators. They are the islands of Souda or Agios Nikolaos and the smaller Leon or Paleosouda, or both known by the name Lefke. Sailing within the bay is not permitted, largely to it being used by the Greek naval forces and the NATO military forces, which maintain here significant installations. Through predetermined latitude channels, any boat can approach the piers of the commercial harbour. The harbour of Souda caters for the merchant and passenger activity of the city of Hania, the Hania district and the general western area of the island. The coastline extending from Marathi to the Cape Melecha stretches wild and impressive with rocky elevations and uneasy sea and dangerous coast. Past Tripiti Cape, Stavros Cape offers a good mooring place with an inviting cove for small rowing, sailing and fishing boats. The carved buildings on the rocky coast are very impressive, while the striking mountain to the east of the settlement was used for the filming of the movie Zorba the Greek, directed by Kalkoyannis and starring Anthony Quinn. The magnificent Cape Mavromouri lifts the fabulous curtain on Cove Kalathas. The beauty and diversity of the coast in all the length of the bay is unsurpassed. The small coves of Kouni Limani, Tarsanas, Kalathas, Agios, Onufrios, and many more anonymous picturesque coves with their waters sparkling in the dancing of the sea make navigating majestic. We are arriving at the port of Hania. A small port, serves mainly small fishing, recreation, sailing, rowing and tripping boats for short cruises organized from here to the islets of Akithos or Theodorou, Kolimbari, Menyes or Katsileris, at Cape Spatha and finally to Grambusa. Hania is the second city of the island, whose history is lost in the distant legends. Built on the ruins of ancient Kydonia, its habitation has been unbroken today, signaling for centuries with its great historic existence. In the time of the Venetian occupation, a strong wall and many fortification works were constructed on previous Byzantine fortifications. The port is protected by a breakwater and opens out into two basins. There are many interesting sites for the visitor. At Akrotiri, the two most prominent Cretan politicians, Sophocles and Eleftherios Venizelos, rest in peace. There also stands the bronze statue of Kaiale. In the city, a ride on the horse-drawn carriage offers a unique experience. The well-versed coachman can take you to the Venetian walls, the Temple of St. Phocos, the public gardens, the Archaeological Museum, the Marine Museum, the Venetian shipyards known as Tarsanathes or Neoria, can talk to you about the great arsenale and its activities, or tell you the story of Firkas fortress, can take you around the narrow streets of the old city, or recommend one of the many taverns or cafes to enjoy a savory traditional meal or drink. The departure from Hania port has to be early in the morning. Dawn colours accompany the voyage as far as the islet of Akitos or Theodorou, on which lie the ruins of the two Venetian forts. Nea Chora, Agia Marina, Katos Stalos, Platanias, Maleme, Tavronitis, Rapaniana, Skoutelonas are a beautiful collection of seaside villages with impressive beaches on the northern coast of Hania district, leading to the mooring place of Kolimbari that fends off south and western winds and can refuel small boats. In the village of Maleme took place the first battle of the locals with German parachutists during the renowned Battle of Crete in the Second World War. An ancient seaside city lay here next to Kolimbari. It was Pergamos or Pergamia Chora, as the ancient writers recorded. Agamemnon founded it after he was swept along the coasts of Crete with his boats on his return journey from Troy. Further north, sailing towards Cape Spatha, lies the monastery of Panagia tis Gonias that houses the Orthodox Academy of Crete with a profuse spiritual and charitable work. The north course takes us along a playful coastline with rocky and smooth successions as far as the marvelous cove Manias or Canzilieri. Here the quaint, uninhabited cove lends itself for the enjoyment of the clear sea, protected by all weather except for the eastern winds. It cannot, however, host large boats. On the southern side of the cove, on the steep rising hill, the big sanctuary of goddess Dictina was built. Behind Rhodopo's peninsula opens out the wide bay of Kissamos. The coves of Kalogeros, Andredi, Amygdalia along the peninsula offer a calm enchantment of the sea, while the rocky coasts promise a good catch for the lovers of the rifle harpoon. From the village Nopilla, with their lit port and sailing west on parallel course with the sandy beach, next to the fertile plain of Kissamos, we arrive at the west cove of the bay, where for centuries Castelli has been lying. The town bears the name of the fort constructed by the Venetians, which lies today in ruins on the hill. The area has been inhabited since the Minoan times, as indicated by the archaeological findings, and in early historic times it served as one of the two seaports to the powerful Mediterranean Polyrinia. Only small boats can anchor here, while the main port of the town is found at Cape Kavonisi. From this port, coastal lines connect Crete to Kythera and Githio of Peloponnesos. Maintaining a north course past the port of Castelli, the small cove of Trachillas opens out, with a quaint fishing village nesting in its arm. This is the last populated area on the coastline as far as Cape Vuxa or Kotikon, or better known as Gramvusa. Here the seaside city Phelea was located during the historic time. The cove of Agios Ostis, just before the cape, is a shelter for the small vessels. Here the ancient city Agnion was built, which flourished in the Hellenistic and Roman period. Further north stands the inhospitable Agria Gramvousa, with the steep and inaccessible coast defining the northernmost part of Crete. Down south spreads Imeri Gramvousa, with the all-weather safe small port. At the top of the west shore of the island, the Venetian fort was constructed, the last western fortification of Galli Notardi. The whims of the sea seem to have shaped this coast. The small islets, the coves, the peninsulas, the capes, the rocks, and the sandy beaches combine with the prelude of sea colors compose a poetic spot with magnificent deserted shores and rich fishing places. Tigani Peninsula, with Mbalos Cove under the sharp gaze of Yeros skinners, is a special stroke to the brush on the large Cretan picture of nature. More to the south, through quick successions of coves and capes, opens out before us the Cove of Koutris. On Cape Koutris and to the south lie the ruins of Acropolis and the port of the big city Phalasina, which flourished in the historic times as the second seaport of Polyrrhenia. Preserved to date, on top of the hill lie the remains of the cyclopean walls of the city, foundations of houses with the front steps still at place, and ruins of the temple of Artemis, Victinis, or Poseidons. Livadi Bight, with the endless, colorful sandy beach of Phalasina and Rapina, and the neat fisheries around, and the rocky islands of Petaluda and Korsari. At the north end of the cove, carved on the rocks, stands the nunnery of Chrysos Kalitissa. Sailing past Tomio Cove and the monastery, we are heading towards one of the most beautiful and well-known shores of Crete, with the golden red beaches and clean seas. Helafonisi. Here, attention is required for the safe mooring of the boats. Any small vessel can seek refuge in the diverse beaches, the leeward side of the coves, the relatively elevated rocky islets, and the small islet Artemis. Larger vessels are protected only from the northeast strong winds, as they have to anchor off the cove. Strong southwest winds send menacingly to this coast the largest sea waves in the Mediterranean basin. Bypassing Chios Cape, heading east, we are leaving behind the west coast as the south coast of the great island is opening out before us. The south coastline is richer in the embellishments created by the caress of the sea, with long deep shores, small coves and capes, gulfs, gorges, islets, rocky islets, and any kind of oddities carved by the sea in its inseparable embracement with the land. Chios Cape and the organized beaches of Agia Kyriaki, Kundura, where the ancient city Kalamidi is located, and Trachila, give way to Paleochora. It is the first port after Castelli where any small or middle-sized vessels drop the anchor and refuel. From the town port there is a scheduled ferry service, weather permitting, to the northernmost part of Europe, the island of Gavdos. On the hill, west of town, the remains of the Venetian castle Castel Serlino are found while the town is bustling with life, especially in summer. It offers high standards of accommodations, telecommunications, health and local services. From Paleochora, the coast as far as Cape Phlomes is endowed with leeward coves, isolated beaches and picturesque shores. Many small gorges end up at the coast, forming thus small alluvial plains which pose a direct challenge to the diligence of the locals. Past the cape and the cove the ancient city Lissos is found, while further east lies ancient Sia. We stay on eastern coast to the cape Tripiti, where the gorge of Tripiti ends and where the ruins of settlement Pikalissos are found. Pykalissos was the seaport of ancient Ellyros. Further east, we are sailing by Cape Kalotrividis, and right next to the ancient Tara, which was an autonomous city of the Cretan Hectopolis, is opening out Agia Roumeli Bay that ends up at the famous Samaria Gorge. Where the settlement of Agia Roumeli is founded today lay in the ancient Tara of the classical period. It was an important spiritual center for the worship of Tareus Apollo in South Crete and flourished in the Greek-Roman period. According to mythology, Apollo, to expiate the murder of Python at Delphi, sought refuge in Tara for cleansing rituals by the priest Karmanora. While there, Apollo hid with nymph Akakalida the twins Phylakidis and Philandros, who were nursed by a cold. After the beach of Agios Pavlos extends the bay of the ancient city Phoenikas that flourished until the early Byzantine era. Lutro Bay, closed and safe in all weather conditions, is accessible from the sea with the village nested in its arms. It is a magnificently calm recreation destination. Maintaining the same course, we approach the coves that surround Horas Phakion. From the town port, there are daily boat trips to Avdos. The port caters for small and medium-sized boats. At the east cove of the town, there is a yachting marina currently under construction. From Horas Phakion starts a peaceful coastline that winds up at the wooded gorge of Imbros or Nymphriotiko, stretches until the beaches of Frangocastello and extends onto the south coast of Rethymnon district. From Frangocastello, a difficult coast with rocks and coves, and Cape Kalogeros opens out the shingle beaches of Rodakino, studded with rocks in neat shapes, and Cape Stavros that opens out to the bays of Myrtios and Plakias. At Plakias port, small boats can find shelter, security and provisions, while the bay is not safe for larger vessels. The town, with good infrastructure, offers every kind of service to the visitor. It constitutes a starting point for scenic trips to the inland, with the magnificent nature and the neighboring beaches that border it. At Plakias, it is also found the second city by the name Phoenikas, called Lambeon, to distinguish it from Phoenikas of Anopolis Phakion. Sailing out of Plakias Bay, past Cape Kakomouri stretches the Amnoni beach, and a little past Preveli Monastery extends a splendid beach where Prevelis River empties into the sea through an exotic riverbed. The steep rocky coasts, the difficult access from the land, the palm trees that endow the riverbed, lush green, the discreetly organized and comfortable beach, the cool water from the riverbed compose a much sought-after destination of the Rethymnon district. The sandy beach from this port to Cape Melissa is smooth and mild, sweet and hospitable. From Cape Melissa opens out to the east the vast bay of South Crete, Messara Bay. River Platis, called Electras in antiquity, rises in ancient Sivritos and flows into Agia Galini Bay and through Kourtaliotiko Gorge. The port of the city offers safety to small and middle-sized boats. Refueling the boats that can approach the pier is relatively easy to accomplish. From the port of Agia Galini, small passenger boats depart daily to Ramphos. The The beach that starts from here and stretches to the south constitutes the large Messara Bay. In the middle of the bay, the new port of Kokkinos Pyrgos is an ideal mooring place for small boats. Kokkinos Pyrgos is the first port on the south coastline of Iraklion district. River Litheros or Europotamos empties into the large sand beach of Tibaki and flows through the plain of Messara, passing by the hills of Minoan Festos and Agia Triada. West of the bay rise the uninhabited islands Paximalia, the little islands of the antiquity, endowed with their legends. Further south, towards the end of the beach Komos, was constructed the great Minoan seaport of Festos. The excavated ruins bear witness to the glorious sea power of the ancient city. Leaving Komos behind, sailing along the rocky coast emerges the cove of Matala, with their renowned caves, burial places of Hellenistic and Roman times, carved on the soft limestone rock of the north side of the cove. The bay is a natural refuge in all weathers except for south and southwest winds, but it does not have the capacity to provide for large and small boats except for the bare necessities. The course is leading us to Lithino Cape, the southernmost part of Cretan land, from which spot on we are navigating east. Trachili Cape, the islet Papadoplaka, Aios Pavlos Bay, the rocky islet Megalonisi are the embellishments of the coast as far as the safe bay of Kali Limenes. The natural bay protects small and large ships in all weathers. In recent years, the bay has been turned into a safe mooring place with modern anchoring and refueling facilities for ocean-going ships. According to tradition, at the cove next to Aios Pavlos Cape, Apostle Paul was wrecked when he was being transferred to Rome. This event gave the cove and the cape their names. This large bay of Kalilimenes, as its name designates, stretches calm and friendly as far as the rocky islet Aspros Volakas and continues so as far as Cape Kefala, which is the west cape of Lendas Bay. After Lendas Bay, the coastline continues east with a diverse lie. Cape Antenna, Bay and Cape Aios Ioannis, Bay Shinias, Bay Ligia are the most notable undulations of the coast as far as Aios Martellos. A little further from the coast, after Cape Ligia, nests the monastery of Kudma, which is swarmed with worshippers at the feast of the patron saint. Past Aio Martello Cove, Tris Ecclesias with the homonymous village lying 10 miles away from the nearest inhabited area. The country churches of St. Anthony, high up on the mountain, and St. Nikitas, with the cave at sea, indicate the only human influence. Past Aios Nikitas, Maridaki Cove, behind Cape Kerkelos, offers protection from the north and west winds. Here lies a small settlement that attracts many visitors in summer. To the east opens out Tsutsuros Bay with its charming beaches, the small but safe port that is currently being developed into a yachting marina. Here lay the ancient Inatos or Vinatos, Anastopolis and Andropolis, seaport to the great city of Priansos, with one of the most significant centers of worship to the goddess of labor in the cave of Velithia. A rocky beach at the mouth of river Anapodaris succeeds Tsutsuros beaches in Dermatos Bay. Further east opens out Bay Keratokambos and the village with a rich production in garden vegetables and fruits all year round. The obtruding rocky hill Keratos lent its name to the cove and the village. Next to Keratokambos is Arvi Bay, whose new port is a safe anchorage for small boats and the village's fishing boats. Arvi is the top village in Crete in the production of banana fruits. In the vicinity of the village it was built ancient Alva or Alvi, and Arvios Zeus had a renowned sanctuary here. To the east, and in close proximity, lies village Myrtos, with its magnificent beach and safe mooring place from north and west winds. We have already crossed over to the southern coast of Lassithi district. This is the most scenic coastline of Crete. From Myrtos, the sandy beach gives its place to the endless cultivation lands and greenhouses leading to Hieropetra. This is the largest port on the south coastline in Crete. From this port, there are daily boat trips to the opposite island of Chrysi or Gaidoronisi. According to legend, first Korivas, one of the first Korivantes, arrived and inhabited the area. Ancient Hieropetra was one of the most prominent cities in historic and Hellenistic times and played an important part in the history of the island. Places worth a visit here are Koules, the Venetian fort of the port, the beautiful preserved Muslim minaret, and the neatly decorated narrow streets of the city. The trip to the island Chrysi brings us to Agios Nikolaos Bay, while its coastline is mainly rocky with small quaint coves. The highest point of the island is 27 meters, and gigantic self-sown cedars compose its flora. Its coves are on the leeward side of the island and offer peace and tranquility to the visitor. Hieropetra Beach ends at the small East Cape Peristeras, from which a unique beach, painted it seems, by the hand of an inspired painter, opens out east. From Cape Peristeras, as far as the opposite cove Katergo, the lace beach hides many surprises. The small elevations of the land, forming picturesque beaches and sea corners of unsurpassed beauty, are admirable. The variety of the coast, which is mostly covered with pine trees, captivate the eye and the heart. The coasts are well-known fisheries, and many locals are occupied in the fishing sector. In the area Makrizialos is found the famous sacred mansion in which a certain piece of worship was the holy knot and the holy ship. Here it is also placed the ancient city Cerinthos. From the easternmost cape of Makrizialo Bay, Kalonero starts a rocky coast which is uninhabited at its largest part. As far as Cape Plaka, only the monastery of St. John's Kapsas stands on its rocky nest, high up from the coast. Next to Cove Gudura, with a homonymous village, smooth and hospitable, sandy and safe from the north and east winds. A mile east from the cape lies 4 meters high the island Psaronisi with dangerous rocks around its coast, while Koufonisi Island lies further east. On the largest of the islands we find ancient settlements and a Roman theatre. It is known that these islets were inhabited in Minoan times, and here are still found stacks of shells sought after for the production of red color. We are leaving behind the small island Koumeli, sailing north, approaching the coastline of the big island. The small islands Kefali, Anavatis and Kavalos, known collectively with the name Kavali, dominate Xerokambos Bay. Here is found the ancient city Ambelos that was developed in Roman and early Byzantine times. The coastline from Cape Trachillas to the small cove of Zakros stretches with its marvelous diversities. Cove Zakros, with a small alluvial plain on which lie the ruins of the 4th Minoan palace. The large city that extends on the plain was the largest Minoan seaport in Crete, with intense trading activity with the East and North Africa. The gorge that ends up the cove is called the Gorge of Dead because at its shores were found Minoan burial sites. In all the extent of the beach from Xeropotamos as far as its northern end and all around Sitia district, Minoan settlements with impressive findings have come to light. Maintaining a north course and crossing the quaint bay Hochlakes, we approach Cape Livonatos, where the large bay Karimbiest starts with the beautiful quiet beaches and the clean sea. On a short eastern course, we are passing by the charming bay Plaka and come before Grantes, a small group of islands and a great fishery. The hill called Petrofas hosts the remains of a significant large Minoan sanctuary, at the top of which important findings have come to light. To the north of Grandes Bay, past the small cape of Palekastro, opens out Kouremenos Bay. One last remaining small cape with a scenic coast is Penta, before our arrival to the unique self-sown palm tree forest, the renowned Vai. It is swarmed with thousands of bathers seeking to enjoy the charming setting and the clean sea every summer. In the next cove, behind the hill that rises in its center, lies ancient Itanos, the largest city of the East Coast in historic times. We are sailing past the cave, and we are setting on a southwest course that will bring us to Sitia Bay. The voyage is magnificent, and the coastline unfolds its scenic beauty. Opposite to the east lies the group of islands Dionysaves or Yasinaves. We are sailing along the Cretan coastline, and at Cove Kiromavi we are carefully avoiding the reefs and rocky islands, among which small sandy coves lie towards the deep Tenta Bay. We are then sailing past the rocky islet Mavros on the south side of the bay, and finally come to Analoukas Bay, on the north side of which the seaside village resort Dionysos is built. From Analoukas Bay, as far as the port of Sitia, we are keeping a west course and sail through a succession of rocky and sandy coasts. Sitia Bay is exposed to north and east winds. At the mouth of the peninsula that forms Vambakos Cape stretches the present city of Sitia. On Petrus Hill to the east is being excavated ancient Itia, the Minoan forerunner of the modern city. Sitia is a relatively new city, built in mid-19th century by Avni Pasha on the ruins of the destroyed by the pirates Venetian city. Kasarma is the restored imposing Venetian fortress which stands impressively on the east slope in the middle of the city. The large seaport surrounded by taverns and cafes offers, besides security, all the comforts to small and large boats. The city houses public, local and coastal services. Phaneromenis Bay displays at its northwest part the elevated cape that is safe mooring place for small boats. Next to it opens out Papadia Bay, exposed to the north harboring Rusalimni village. From there, and after a 20-minute voyage, sailing by Cape Xera with its reefs, we anchor at Ayanis Bay with the lace coast and enjoy the sea. From the next cape, Castellos, a charming nature behind the coastline with the interesting geological observations, accompanies us as far as Mochlos. Fishing village Mochlos, with its island Agios Nikolaos, encompasses another interesting destination. Here we can enjoy, besides the beautiful landscape, the history of the land. We can see the ruins of the ancient city, half of which is sunk in the sea canal, formed between the village and the small island. The Minoan city was destroyed with a number of other cities when the volcano of Santorini erupted. We are staying on northern coast and we are sailing past Mochlos cave, where many other surprises await us at Loiv, Tholos and the small port of Psira. In this area, the steep-cut coasts reveal the magnitude of tragedy that took place after the explosion of Thyro volcano in the middle of the second early Christian millennium. We are now sailing along the east end of the largest bay in Crete, Mirambello Bay. The small island of Psira, with a peculiar shape and the jagged coastlines, forms a safe passage to moorings for any small and large boat. From Legameni Cape, the rocky islet Katero, the small cove Therio, and the small islands Konida and Psyllos, we anchor for a while at the small port of Pachia Amos. Here lies the narrowest part of Crete, that is 8 kilometers long on a straight line from Therma to Ierapetra. Here is also believed to have been located the ancient city of Minoa. In Pachia Amos, with a rich coast, it is possible for small boats to refuel, and it is the first small organized port after the large seaport of Sitia. From the sea, built on the hill, we can observe Gournia, which is a prototype of a completed excavation of Minoan settlement in Crete. Cruising northwest of the small island and Cape Psaronisi, and past Cove Macheridi with its peculiar shape, we are approaching Istru Bay. We are sailing north, crossing the bays of Horio, Vathi, Amudara and many smaller organized and free beaches, and from Cape Mavros, Kavos, we are reaching the most beautiful coast of Crete. From Mikronisi, that dominates the Cove of Agios Nikolaos, we are arriving at the third and largest city of Lasithi district. Agios Nikolaos is the Cretan Seven Hill. It was built on the ruins of ancient Lato. The ancient city was a seaport of Lato. Voulismeni, or Xepatomenos or Limni, is one of the most prominent geological marvels of the area. It is the famous lagoon around which the city has been constructed. The city has a tangible tourist infrastructure and comforts, an array of small shops, well-built coastal installations for the service of small and larger passenger boats, and the merchant navy and coastal and district services. From Agios Nikolaos Bay, Cape Pleura is very near as it unfolds the marvelous coast of Elunda and the islands Kolokitha and the famous Spina Longa. In the Gulf of Elunda lay ancient city Olus that lent its name to the modern town. This beautiful land needs no introductions. It seems that nature, endowed with fine embellishment this part of the island, where a developed tourist infrastructure has become one of the finest tourist resorts in the Mediterranean. The islet of Spina Longa stands with its age-old Venetian armour, a guard against invaders, strong winds and bad weathers to the calm bay. Here, until the mid-20th century, were isolated medical cases of consumption. From the village Plaka and its small port were often organized visits to the impressive buildings that remain unaffected, revealing the dramas and tragedies played on the island. All the tranquility and calmness we enjoyed at Elunda is lost in the effort to cross Agios Ioannis Bay. Local fishermen, knowing all too well the waters, call this aphores menos, meaning always rough and never calm. It is yet tempting with its natural wilderness and peculiarities. From Aphores Menos to Cape Castri, the sea is almost unapproachable. With a few exceptions of mild coves that offer shelter to small boats, the only coast that is somewhat organized is that of Lichadas. Everywhere though, the sea stretches deep blue, clear and clean. The scenic beauty opens out as far as Cape Kavos that together with Punta form Miletos Bay. The small port under construction here is planned to be a yachting marina. The diversity of the coast in this bay is impressive. Rocky elevations, small soft beaches, small embraces of the sea, prolific fisheries, a good tourist infrastructure. The tourist product here appeals to middle and lower incomes, as it is very much the norm for the most tourist areas in Crete. Ancient city Miletos flourished in historic and Hellenistic times and was completely destroyed from Lycians in late 3rd century BC. Homer mentions the city had taken part in the Trojan War with King Meriones. The old village of Miletos is further away from the coast. A little higher and at the east side of the gorge is the Cave of Offerings. Crossing Miletos Bay, Malia Bay is opening out before us. To the east, beautifully playful nests the seaside resort of Sisi, with a safe harbour for small boats, charming beaches, diverse nature, a small fertile plain and great people awaits to show its virtues. Further south, along the sandy coast and distance from the sea, lies the third largest Minoan palace in Crete, the Malia Palace. The name of the Minoan city found here has not been handed down, neither can we safely extract its name in historic times. It was most probably called Arsinai or Hierapolis. Today the city is known for its fresh garden vegetables and the good tourist infrastructure, as it has grown into an appealing resort for local and foreign visitors. From the small port of Malia, daily boat trips are organized to Dia Island. At the mouth of the Gulf, next to Malia, lies Telida, a village with a rapid tourist development in recent years. Two small shoals at the mouth of the cove require the vigilance of the navigators. The cove in general is shallow, with a sandy coast and a rich organized beach. The village offers modern resort facilities, quaint taverns, serving a variety of local traditional dishes, hospitable and friendly residents, vibrant nightlife, and a homey atmosphere that makes it an attractive holiday destination for families. Chersonissos is the last port at the end of Malia Gulf. Built on the ancient city Malia, that was the seaport of mighty Lytos or Lyktos, flourished in the Hellenistic and Greek-Roman period. On the hill, standing west of the port, lie the ruins of an old Christian basilica with well-preserved floor mosaics. The area, according to the findings, has been inhabited since the Minoan era. Stravonas records a temple dedicated to the Cretan deity Vritomartis that is imprinted on the coins of the ancient city. The city has an unbroken record of habitation, except for the period of the Arab occupation. The large and luxurious hotel resorts provide a comfortable stay, and its coves and coasts memorable sea delights. The port offers safe mooring and refueling to small boats and sea crafts, while there are regular boat trips to island Dia. Noteworthy coves to the west of the port, as far as Agios Georgios Cove, covered with wide, clear pebbles, add an aesthetic note to the sea delights. Sailing past Cape St. George or Chersonissos, we are crossing a densely populated coast with colorful organized beaches as far as Karteros Cove, Anisaras, Analipsi, Vouves, on the coast of which the new aquarium Thalassokosmos was built to host hundreds of sea species found in the Mediterranean Sea. The coastline is shortly cut by the abrupt natural roughness known as Kakko Oros and continues with Tombrook or Amnisos Beach that is cut in half by the hill where the beautiful Minoan mansion of frescoes was found, named after the colorful frescoes excavated here. All across Amnisos Bay, anchoring is prohibited due to its close proximity to Heraklion Airport and seaport. Sailing past the small cape of Karteros, we are welcomed again by the large port of Heraklion. So unexpectedly and surprisingly, as every undulation of the coast that startled us with its beauty and uniqueness as it flashed before Phileas' boat. 12 days flew by. 1,050 kilometers of coastline crossed under the bow of our boat. It feels like yesterday we left behind the large port heading west. For a voyage that might have come to an end here, in memory, however, we keep recalling the images we enjoyed in the same manner that for hundreds of years now, the waves recreate the coasts and shape the history of this great Mediterranean island.